You have been rehearsing your own disappearance for months now. Not the kind anyone would notice. Not the kind that leaves a space where you used to stand. The quiet kind. The kind where you stop defending the person you have been and start letting them lose arguments on purpose. There is a version of you that you have been protecting out of loyalty. You built them from scratch. You fought for them. You convinced the world to take them seriously. And now you are standing in a doorway watching them sleep. And you know in the part of yourself that never speaks out loud that they are not going to make the trip with you. No one talks about this. The grief of outgrowing a self you worked so hard to become. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are not having a crisis. You are having a recognition. And recognitions do not ask permission. They arrive like a change in temperature, like waking up one morning and realizing you have been holding your breath for a year, like looking in the mirror and seeing someone who used to fit and doesn't anymore. I have watched people try to renovate when they needed to relocate, adding rooms to a house with a cracked foundation, updating the paint while the structure sags. You know the difference. You have known it for a while. But knowing is easy. It is the leaving that costs. You are not ready to become someone new because you finally have the answers. You are ready because you have stopped pretending the old answers still work. And that is a door most people never even find. Not because they are afraid to walk through it, because they are afraid to admit it exists. I have seen what you are carrying. The exhaustion of performing a life that no longer matches the person living it. You wake up and put on the costume. You say the lines. You hit your marks. And somewhere around midday, you catch yourself wondering how much longer you can keep pretending this is a role you auditioned for and not a cage you accidentally built with your own hands. The people around you think you are doing fine. Some of them think you are doing better than fine. They point to the evidence of your life, the things you have accumulated, the stability you have constructed, and they tell you that you should be grateful, and you are grateful. Gratitude is not the problem. The problem is that gratitude has become a way of silencing the part of you that knows something is finished. You have tried to make it work. I have watched you try. You adjusted your expectations. You told yourself that this is simply what adulthood feels like, that everyone carries this quiet dissonance, that wanting more is a form of ingratitude. You negotiated with your own longing until it agreed to stay quiet in exchange for small comforts. But it did not stay quiet. It just learned to speak in symptoms. Restlessness, irritation, a tiredness that sleep does not fix. The vague sense that you are waiting for something you cannot name. You are not ungrateful. You are outgrowing. And those are not the same thing, even though the world has taught you to confuse them. I know what you are afraid of. You are afraid that if you let go of this version of yourself, you will lose everything you built with them. The relationships that depend on you staying the same. The respect you earned by being reliable. The identity that people recognize when they see you coming. You are afraid that becoming someone new means betraying everyone who loved the person you were. And so you stay, not because you believe in the life anymore, but because you do not know how to leave without burning it down. But here is what I have learned from watching people stand where you are standing. The ones who stay out of guilt do not protect anything. They just delay the collapse. And the longer they delay it, the more violent it becomes when it finally arrives. You cannot save a version of yourself by refusing to let them die. You can only extend the suffering and call it loyalty. The person you are becoming is not a betrayal of the person you were. They are the point. They are what all of it was for. Every lesson you learned in that old life, every skill you built, every wound you survived, it was preparation. You just did not know what you were being prepared for until now. I have watched you test the edges of this new self in private, trying on thoughts you would never say out loud, imagining futures you immediately dismiss as unrealistic, letting yourself want things you have trained yourself to call impossible. You think you are being foolish. You think you are being reckless, but you are not being reckless. You are being honest for the first time in years, And honesty feels reckless when you have been living in compromise. The new version of you is not waiting somewhere in the future. They are already here, pressed against the inside of your chest, taking up space you keep pretending is empty. You feel them when you are alone. You feel them in the moments between the performance, when the lights go down and you stop holding your face in the shape everyone expects. They are not a fantasy. They are not a wish. They are an inevitability you keep trying to postpone. You are afraid that you do not know how to be this person, that you will step into the new life and discover you are not built for it, that the longing was a lie and the wanting was a mistake, and you will find yourself stranded between two selves belonging to neither. I understand. The space between who you were and who you are becoming is not a bridge. It is open water, and you have never been a strong swimmer. But I have seen people make this crossing, not the ones who waited until they were ready, not the ones who planned every stroke before they touched the water. The ones who made it were the ones who admitted they were already drowning where they stood. They did not jump because they were brave. They jumped because staying had become the more dangerous choice. You think the leap requires certainty. It does not. It requires only the recognition that the ground you are standing on is no longer solid. And you have already recognized that. You recognized it months ago. You have simply been standing very still, hoping no one would notice the cracks. I am not going to tell you that the other side is easy. I am not going to promise that becoming someone new will solve the ache you carry. Some of that ache is just the price of being alive and paying attention. But I will tell you this, the exhaustion you feel right now, the weight of holding a shape that no longer fits, that exhaustion is not sustainable. And somewhere inside you, beneath the fear, beneath the loyalty to a self you have already outgrown, you know that the only way out is through. You have been waiting for permission. Permission from the people who need you to stay the same. Permission from a world that rewards consistency and punishes reinvention. Permission from the voice in your head that keeps asking who you think you are to want a different life. But that permission is never going to come, not because you do not deserve it, but because the people who become someone new are never the ones who waited to be told it was allowed. You do not need permission. You need to stop pretending you have not already made the decision. I have seen your eyes when you talk about the future, the way they go flat when you describe the path you are supposed to want. The way they light when you accidentally mention the thing you have been hiding. You think you are keeping a secret, but your face has been telling the truth for months. The only person still believing the lie is you. The grief will come. I will not pretend it won't. You will mourn the person you were, even as you release them. You will miss the certainty of a smaller life, even as you expand beyond it. You will have nights when you wonder if you made a terrible mistake, if the old self was right and the new self is just a fantasy, dressed up as growth. This is not a sign that you chose wrong. It is a sign that you chose something real, and real things cost. But the grief is not a warning, it is a passage. It is the tax you pay for taking your own becoming seriously. And on the other side of it, on the other side of the letting go and the not knowing and the terrifying freedom of a self still under construction, there is something waiting that you cannot see from here. Not happiness exactly. Something deeper. The particular relief of finally living a life that does not require you to abandon yourself in order to maintain it. You are ready. Not because you feel ready. You do not feel ready. You do not feel terrified and uncertain and guilty and more alive than you have felt in years. That is what ready feels like. Not confidence, recognition, the bone-deep understanding that you cannot go back, that the door behind you has already closed, that the only direction left is forward into the person you have been becoming all along. So let them go, the self you built to survive a life you no longer live. The identity you constructed before you knew what you actually needed, the version of you that served its purpose and now stands between you and everything that comes next. They were not a mistake, they were a chapter. And chapters end so that stories can continue. You are not losing yourself. You are finding the one you kept hidden, and they have been waiting so long for you to stop apologizing for their existence. Become them, not tomorrow, not when you are certain. Now, while you are still scared, while you still do not know how, while the old life is still warm and the new one is still unformed, and the only thing you have is the unbearable knowledge that you cannot stay here anymore. That is enough. It is unbearable knowledge that you cannot stay here anymore. That is enough. It has always been enough. Now go.